welcome to the Metal Cell podcast. This is an old school metal one, and I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by Tony Boyle and Pat Clancy. How are you, lads?
All right.
Good, Richie. Good.
Right.
Good.
So, for people that don't know ye, I suppose, Tony, if you start first and give us an idea of how long you're into metal and what age are you?
I got into metal, Richie, about when I was 13 years of age. I'm now over my 50s.
Okay, so 40 years.
About 40 years, yeah.
What about you, Pat?
I'm 48 now, Richie. So I got into metal first when I was about 11, 12. So about early 80s, again, all the usual stuff. Maiden, Saxon, Lizzie, Quo, Van Halen, all the usual crack, and just got into heavier stuff as time went on,
So we'll start with you then, Pat. Right, you were, 12, is it? Or how did you get into it, first of all? Or was it through the radio, or had you an older brother, or what was
No, it was pure. I heard a few songs on the radio. I remember hearing Run to the Hills, Iron Maiden on the Larry Gogan's Top 30 of all, I remember Dave Fanning playing a few tracks, like the likes of Girls' School, Def Leppard, Rainbow. He used to play stuff like that, Gary Moore, all that kind of crack, you know what I mean? So that was how I got introduced to metal through the radio, and the parents bring me to town then into Golden Discs, go through the records, and something to jump out at you. I remember one of the first records I ever picked up was Iron Maiden Killers. I had never known of Iron Maiden, but as soon as I saw the record cover, I just said, I had to have it. It looked amazing, you know what I mean?
Was there a record player at home, or did you have to buy one?
Oh no, there was a record player at home.
Your dad's? Or?
Yeah, my dad's, yeah.
Okay, and what was his music collection like?
Everything, he liked a bit of he loves Maiden, he still likes Maiden.
Okay.
Likes a bit of Saxon, Status Quo, as well as all the usual Neil Diamond and all that kind of crack.
Okay, so he'd a mixture.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Good
Cool.
mixture, yeah.
Tony, what about you?
Yeah, Rich. I started the way I got into listen to music as such was my older brother Don. Don was a big classic rock fan way back in the 70s and 80s. I big into mainly Zeppelin, Rush, Floyd, Wishbone Ash, Sabbath and stuff like that. So it was from him I got my where my roots started.
And what was the age difference between you?
There's about 5 or 6 years. So he was passing it on to me as such.
Or were you robbing it on him?
I wasn't robbing it, but the thing was, when I used to call to him up to his room, he'd have the vinyls blazing, and I remember this particular day as such, he said to me, sit down, relax, and have a listen to this. And he put on Black Sabbath's album, Black Sabbath, and once I heard the rain, the bells in the background chiming, I just drifted off into, and that started me off then. So obviously then, he was into Gallagher, started getting a taste for that. And then, as Pat said a while ago, the next thing I heard after that was Van Halen 1.
Cool.
Same scenario, sit down, listen to the first 1 or 2 songs, and then came Eruption. And
oh my God,
that was me sold. And that's where I started off. And he brought me to my first gig then as well, so.
Brilliant. Thank God for older brothers.
Yeah, thank God.
Yeah, my brothers, there's 11 years between me and my brother. He had a Savage collection as well. And the album that changed it all for me was Saxon Wheels of Steel.
Great album.
It was a case of finding a Hurley or a sweep and brush and just pretend it was a guitar and jump around the room. I eventually moved on to a tennis racket then.
Yeah.
Yeah, could never afford the guitar after that.
Tennis rackets are better.
Yeah, more strings anyway.
Yeah.
Pat, then, so where were you living at that stage? Were you from the city or were you outside the city?
I'm from outside the city. I grew up in, born and raised in Carroll.
Okay.
So from there, as a young fella, Mark Morrissey, I actually went to school with Mark,
Right.
So he's one of the same goals myself. And Mark was into AC/DC and all back then as well, you know what I mean?
Okay.
So lived in Carroll Lane, went to a few gigs. I remember my father took me to Status Quo, and my next door neighbour brought me to Saxon and Rory Gallagher in the City Hall.
At what age were you then?
I was 13.
Jeez.
Yeah.
So
you were really lucky to have someone to
I
bring along that.
Yeah.
And kind of at that stage, were both of you aware of kind of gangs of lads around the place? Were they into that, or was it a whole different scene then? Was it into ska, or were they just into kind of pop music?
Yeah.
How did you find that in school, we'll say?
Yeah, for me, there was a few rockers in school with me,
Okay.
but outside of school, there was a few friends that were into kind of punk and stuff like that.
Right.
Stiff Little Fingers and the Pistols and UK subs, all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
But I kind of stuck with the more metal side of it, as such, classic rock, as I said.
Yeah.
So,
What about you, Pat? Had you many friends into it, bar Mark? And
Yeah, there was a like Mark, there was a group we used to hang around together. We were 11 or 12. There was Mark, myself, and a few other lads, and we were all into our AC/DC, Maiden, bits of that kind of stuff. Like, you know what I mean? Outside of that, really, there wasn't a whole lot going on in Carolina. It was just kind of a couple of gangs of lads that were into their rock and metal, but for the most part, it was kind of shunned upon, really, as such. Like, you know what I mean?
Right. And did you kind of go around to each other's houses and play music?
We did, yeah. Or we'd hang around. We used to go down Riverbank, like, and stuff like that, and kind of play a few tunes down there, like, or a place called the Plots, which was placed down in front of us. We used to kind of hang out down around there as well.
And what would you have? Twin decks?
Twin decks, yeah, with tapes. Yeah. Tapes is all the rage, isn't it? They used to.
Tony, you're laughing. Any memories there?
yeah, same as Pat there. There was kind of 3 or 4 of us that would always crank it up and just listen to, his Sabbath or whatever, like, or Maiden and things like that. And it was just great. You still even reminisce about it now.
Yeah.
Back to in your teens, like, because, as I said, that's where the roots came from, and that's how you develop into spreading out, listen to more bands as such,
I remember getting cassettes, blank cassettes, and just taping. Well, I didn't have the vinyl. Another guy had the vinyl, and he'd just make cassettes for us. Were you in the same boat, or were you able to buy the cassettes?
No,
as in full albums in cassettes?
Could buy a few, like, but for the most part, when you're that age, you're relying on each other to copy the latest album and spread it around that way. Like,
that's the way you'd move.
So one guy buy an album, he copied for all of us.
Yeah.
Then someone else buy an album and you get it around that way. Like,
that was it.
Yeah, because that's why I'm bringing it up, because people again wouldn't be aware of what we used to do that way, so we'd listen to music,
Yeah.
So you'd always kind of get one then that's probably 4th or 5th copy, and it's just terrible.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Sounds like it's raining or something.
Yeah. From then, we'll say, okay, so you were going to actually gigs very early, like 13, 14, in the city. Both of you, Tony, you?
Yeah. As I said, the way I started off there, Richie, was my brother again, Don. Down the Arcadia facing the train station was a great venue. It's apartments now or something like that. But he brought me to see, and it was in 1980, it was Hawkwind.
All right. Was Lemmy out with him?
No, he wasn't. But it was Hawkwind and a band called Vardis were supporting them. And at the time, before Kerrang and Metal Hammer, there was a thing, Sounds magazine.
Right,
it was like a newspaper. And, they'd have all the ads for guitar players and albums and tours. And
was that an English
an English,
okay.
yeah, an English paper as such.
Right.
And there was a poster for this band called Vardis, and I'll never forget it. Even today, I can still remember it. The poster was the guitar player with long blonde hair, and the name of the album was 100 Miles Per Hour, and they played with Hawkwind. And as I said, I was 13. I don't know how I got in there. He must have put me under his coat or something, got me in. But that was a start. And after that, I said, gigs. That was it, like,
Yeah. Did any of your friends manage to get in for that gig?
No, just the 2 of us.
So you did bragging rights then.
Yeah, exactly.
For example, Vardis' album, we'll say 4 bands that came in, or was it just impossible?
It was hard. Hard. Like, you'd probably, maybe, in from England or somewhere like that, Like, obviously back in the early 80s, there was Pat Egan's and stuff like that. And the Queen's Castle, you get the albums and things there, and you could buy tickets for gigs inside in the Queen's Castle,
Okay.
Yeah.
And he had a place in the Savoy as well, didn't he?
He did,
He used to sell all the buttons and
that's
pins
right,
and stuff like
that's
that.
right, he did.
25p for a little
That's
pin
right,
badge.
yeah, the pin badge, yeah.
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 And would you have ever talked to this guy? Was he a fan, or was he just a shrewd businessman, kind of?
I don't think he was ever even in the shop. I think it was just there was obviously someone else working there.
Somebody else working there, yeah.
So can any of you remember then your first album you bought and held in your hand?
For AC/DC Highway to Hell.
Okay.
First one ever.
Right.
Yeah. And mine was AC/DC Back in Black. The first one I bought on my own money, 1980.
And that feeling of going home.
And like, when it's your first vinyl, you're going home, you're playing it, and you're going to play it 100 times because that's the only vinyl you have.
Yeah.
But if you hear it again 10 years later, it brings you back and you kind of go, so it's your first album. It's kind of, in a way, your kind of favourite album for a long time, like,
Yeah, I got Saxon Rock the Nations.
There
And it was brutal. And I so wanted to like it. I told everybody it was so good.
Yeah.
And it was brutal.
Brutal.
You know?
Yeah,
I got it up in Cork, actually, in golden discs. And it was the album cover I bought. You know, the way you'd actually gamble sometimes
You
on,
would.
Yeah.
on album covers. And I knew of Wheels of Steel, obviously. I played that to date. So I didn't know if... Because again, back then you didn't know if the review was good or not, because there was really not many magazines that were reviewing the albums. So you just kind of go by the cover of it.
Yeah. It was the same for a lot of us. Like, you know what I mean? You see a cover and it would just draw you in, and you just take a chance based on the cover.
Yeah.
I remember buying Venom, actually, at War with Satan.
Yeah.
You know, 1984. It was in golden discs, right? And in golden discs at the time, you'd never see albums of that in there. Like,
No,
you know what I
you
mean?
wouldn't,
Had
no.
a big import sticker in it, like. But I said, look, I'll take a chance on it. The logo looked cool, you know. There was a cross in it and it said "At War with Satan," and I was thinking, it's probably at war against Satan, you know. It's probably, and I got home and put it on and listened to the lyrics, and I actually couldn't believe it. It was so evil, satanic, you know. It was just, I just couldn't believe what I was listening to. For me, at the time, the Number of the Beast was like, you know, very satanic, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then when I heard this, and the lyrics are beyond belief, like, you know what I mean? It just blew my mind completely, like, you know.
What about hiding it from your parents?
They didn't mind; they were pretty okay with that stuff. You know?
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about you, Tony?
Yeah, no problem whatsoever. Like, you know, but as you said, Pat, there, like, when you see import on it,
Yeah.
you say there's only 2 or 3 of these around. Like, there's no way other people have this particular one,
Yeah.
and it would kind of push it to pick it up.
Okay.
You know, back in the day, you'd kind of say, oh, there's only 2 or 3 of those around, and
That's interesting that you brought it up. Can you remember actually competing with your friends for albums?
Like,
You know-
who's going to go in and get it first? Is it?
Yes.
I suppose back in those days, Richie, like, you know, it was a lot more simpler. You'd be delighted if everybody went in and bought one.
Okay.
At least you'd hear it as well.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
And obviously, maybe 3 or 4 weeks later, you might have enough money to go in and buy a different one.
Yeah.
And that's how it worked. Like,
It was, yeah.
there was no competitive streak in it, in that
Yes.
sense, like, you know?
Because Boyle brought that up again, because people don't understand, you know, how hard it was to get these things.
Yeah.
So myself and my friend Timmy, we doubled up. So between us, we'd get one. You know, we'd never get the same, obviously, but
Yeah.
you know, I got the Slayer, he got Metallica, whatever. That was the way we kind of worked our
Yeah.
because you were just always broke, you know. You really didn't have the money to buy these albums that certainly weren't available in Cork. So when did you discover Tommy Toy, or did you actually send off to England? It was obviously you were still referencing sounds for albums, were you?
Yeah.
For collection wise.
Magazine reviews like Metal Forces, no. Kerrang was great back in the day.
It was.
Remember making Metal Kerrang and
That's
stuff
right.
like that, like, you
At
know.
the start, it was brilliant.
Fantastic. Metal Hammer was even okay back in the
Yeah.
mid 80s, like, you know what I mean?
That arrived later than Krang, did it?
Metal Hammer would have arrived later than Kerrang.
So
yes,
it was
yeah.
Krang first then.
Kerrang here, well, both magazines they were still on sale kind of 85, 86, like, you know what I mean? You know,
Yeah.
they were bought on sale around then. And
Yeah.
Sounds was like, I think Sounds has probably gone by about 82, 83.
It
probably,
was,
isn't
yeah.
Yeah.
It was kind of more 70s when the
It was,
sounds.
yeah. It was, yeah.
So when did you notice then the change in the Irish metal scene locally?
The change in the Irish metal scene locally. I suppose my first experience of that was probably, I remember going to see Judgment and another fellow I knew in Carrigaline. We went out to the powder mill, it was called in Ballincollig at the time. It was 88, I think it was one of their first gigs.
Right.
Went out there, he knew about it because he went to school in Ashton and he knew a couple of lads in the city, like, you know what I mean?
Okay.
I knew nothing about Judgment, but I just thought, look, a metal trash gig, have to go, like, so we went out to Ballincollig, watched it there, like, you know what I mean?
And what was there a crowd there?
There was a crowd there, all locals, like, and they're all,
Okay.
you know, but it was brilliant to see, like, you know what I mean? But
So that was kind of your first real
that was
trash.
my first real trash gig in Cork anyway, like, you know what I
Okay.
mean? Yeah.
Tony? remember?
From me, Richie, I'd say, like as Pat said, they were going to see Cole and Lizzie and Saxon in the City Hall and stuff like that. But then more locally, there was a few local bands. Jinx there.
Jinx. Was there Drive Shaft as well?
Drive Shaft.
Jory Lane,
Yeah.
Drive Shaft.
That's
What's
right.
the story about them? Because one of the lads brought up in the first old school metal,
Yeah.
but they didn't seem to know much about the band.
They were a very good band. Jory was a great guitar player, singer. Brian Crowley, the TD, or
Oh, yeah.
Brian sang with them for a while.
Wow.
Yeah, and I seen him inside in
City Hall.
City Hall.
Yeah, they played with played the sport of Saxon, and
That's right.
they played with Gallagher as well. And
They did,
Gallagher
they
in
did,
January
they did.
'84 as well.
Yeah,
That's right. Yeah,
So that was 1984.
yeah.
Yeah.
Jeremy Nagel actually, he's still around the place. He plays in the blues band now.
That's right.
I saw him in Ziggy's. Seen him in Ziggy's there about a year ago. I'd say.
Yeah, yeah.
And he's still around the scene. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
He played the band as well called what were they called again? A metal band. Name escapes me, at the moment. They were kind of originally formed back in the new wave of British heavy metal, but they released an album a couple of years back.
Oh, it wasn't Rogue Mail, was it?
No, not Rogue
right,
Mail.
right.
Begins with a name. It'll come to me now in a while.
Yeah,
But,
That's fine. That was 1984, 85, is it?
no, this is only recently put out.
Oh,
this
right.
was
Oh,
about 5
right.
years ago.
Okay.
The singer Ross Turlock,
Right.
he actually passed away since.
Well, like the likes of Jinx, this
Okay.
band, they were kind of rock and blues band, and they used to do great covers, Priest, Saxon, Y&T, and and they had it down to spot on, like.
Yeah.
And they used to kind of do community centres and little kind of back of a lorry and things like that.
Okay.
And they used to do a few gigs around the place and
So there
down
was
in
no-
Cove and stuff like.
So there was no real established venue in Cork, we'll say after the Arcadia. Or was there?
Well, Sir Henry's.
Henry's would have been, yeah.
Henry's,
yeah.
like,
Yeah.
Okay,
Sorry.
downstairs in the village, is it? Or
No, there's actually in the main venue, wouldn't it?
the main venue,
Yeah,
yeah,
okay.
yeah, and some good bands got in there, like, and as we said, Acid Rain and stuff like that, some good bands.
the acid rain gig,
Yeah.
were we all at that?
I think,
Yeah.
That's
April
interesting, isn't it?
1990.
The three
That's
of us were
right,
at it.
yeah.
DAM was place supported as well.
That's
wasn't it?
correct, yeah.
Yeah.
I just remember not seeing the band.
I remember
'Cause it was just
everyone was up on the stage.
crazy. Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't think I've ever been at a gig that has had so many stage dives.
And you know what? I don't normally go in for a mosh or anything like that, but that particular night I did, I must have got
was
caught
on-
up in the flow.
Yeah.
But I came out with 2 black eyes, and I was saying, "Oh my," so it was one of those gigs that you just get roped into, But it
What
was-
year was that, lad?
That was 1990.
Was it 1990? Okay, yeah. But again, kind of like the early 80s, we'd say, of course, Metallica released Master Puppets in 86, and Slayer had Rain and Blood in 86 as well. When did you move from buying vinyl from England to Europe or America? Had you any of these stretched out to bands?
Not in '86. I started buying vinyl abroad from about '88 on.
Okay.
Through mail orders, like Wild Rags Records in the States. I used to get records from them. TPL in Sweden, or House of Kicks, I got a bit later. A few places like that. There was a place in the UK as well called Round Diamond Records.
Right.
About '89 they were around, like.
So people wouldn't know what a mail order is either. Can you just develop
mail
on
orders?
that?
Basically, it was like they used to advertise in magazines or
Right.
fanzines, like, you know what I mean.
Okay.
And they give a list of records and the prices, like, you know what I mean.
Right.
And and they give the rates then for international shipping and stuff like that, like, you know what I mean.
So mail order was like a check.
Mail order? No, not so much like a check. You'd send, what you do is you'd send a post or a money order, international money order.
Right.
With your order of records, what you want,
Okay.
including the shipping cost, and you get them back in the mail, and probably a month later, like, you know what I mean.
It would take a month, yeah.
About a month, yeah, generally,
Okay.
yeah.
And that's including America as well.
No, America would be longer. I was waiting 3 months for a package from the States once. I didn't think I was ever going to get it.
What album was it?
At the time, what was it? It was Sarcophago INRI. Was it Volcano Bloody Vengeance and Mutilator Mortal Force?
Okay.
Yeah.
And where did you? Was that in New York?
No, California.
California.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So maybe at this stage it's a good idea to kind of recognize Pat's huge record collection and CD tapes. Roughly, how many have you, Pat?
All in all, I'd say about 9,000 between vinyl, CDs, and tapes.
Which is fairly incredible. And you're curator of all that in one house, correct?
In one house, yeah. All over the house.
a bungalow.
Yeah, it's an incredible achievement. So from, we'll say 16, 17, you were stockpiling, really.
Pretty much, yeah. Once I got out of school and started earning money, even
Yes.
beforehand, I was getting summer jobs. Every penny I ever got, I was buying foot records with, like, you know what I mean?
Okay.
You know, my dad used to go with work up to meetings in Dublin. He used to be calling to the sound centre. I'd give him a list of stuff. He'd be bringing them home, like, you know what I mean? So my dad even knows Tommy Tighe, you know, from back then, because he used to be in there every couple of weeks, like, you know what I mean? You know?
Brilliant.
You know?
Tommy Tighe actually has a good relationship with a lot of us. We all know him by name, you know, and he's a great man to make sure we all know that we're not from Dublin.
Yeah.
It's the easiest way to put it. What about you, Tony? Can you remember actually kind of that feeling of sending off a money order into the big wide world and hoping and praying that you'll get an album back?
No, what I used to do, Richie, was myself, my wife, and we used to go over to London. And had her family, well, her grandparents were from Cork originally, lived in London.
Okay.
So we used to commute over every few weeks or every few months. But every Christmas we used to go over for a week or so, and once we hit London Christmas, any money I saved up throughout the year, I just go over. And that time we were coming back by ferry, so there was no harm bringing back, 30 or 40 albums, which you like.
Really?
You know?
You'd buy that amount?
You would. You'd save up during the year. Like.
Jesus.
Plus, a lot of them might be second hand that you'd pick up over there that you wouldn't get in Cork at all then, like, and as Pat said, they're kind of the imports or the unusual ones, you know, the coloured vinyls and stuff and things like that. So I'd always look forward then to heading over there and, even when I still go over now, I still do it, go
Really,
over and have a walk around to a few little places there and...
But I suppose record fairs. Do any of you hit record fairs?
Used to, but not anymore.
Okay.
I think the selection is a lot poorer than what it used to be, and the prices have skyrocketed towards what you pay on Discogs now. Like, they're even more expensive at the record fairs. Like, you know what I mean?
Okay.
So they've copped on to what people are willing to pay for records, and they're charging the same themselves.
Yeah.
Like, years ago, you get great bargains at record fairs. Like, you know what I mean? Or even second-hand shops. I remember buying Death Crush in Dublin in a second-hand shop in Georgia Street Arcade. It's worth about $2,000 now. You know what I mean? The 87 mini LP. It was there $2.99. Some guy came in and just offloaded it. You know what I mean? And couldn't believe it.
You were aware of what the album was? And
well, to be honest, even back then, it wasn't worth. To me, it wasn't worth a whole lot. Or in terms of money, but it did escalate in time with the whole escalation, the black metal thing and stuff like that. Like, you know what I mean?
What do you, now that you brought it up, what's your most prized possession? What album is worth the most? Is it that one?
I don't know. Well, no, I sold it. I sold it again. I sold it about 10 years ago for 210 sterling.
Did you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
All right.
I didn't never thought much of the album. Like, you know what I mean?
Okay.
I like their one later, The Mysteries of Satanas.
Right.
That's the next list. To me, that's the best thing Mayhem ever done. I still have that. That's worth a nice bit of money now as well. A lot of the black metal stuff now, like the early Burzum records. I've Aska 12-inch with a Zippo lighter that came with initial copies of the album. That's worth a lot of money.
Is this, I suppose, on the backs Lords of Chaos? Were you actually communicating with any of those guys that were in the movie?
Yeah, I communicated with Euronymous. I wrote to him. I have their Death Crush demo. I still have their demo tape at home. John from Dissection. No, he wasn't in the movie, but he was he was closely aligned with that whole scene at the time. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
I wrote to loads of bands that died. Like, I've demos by Hades, Gorgoroth. A lot of these Norwegian bands. So I just wrote off and got the demos. Like, I still have the demo tapes at home. Like,
and you have the correspondence as well.
Yeah, I still have the letters and stuff like that.
That's amazing.
Brilliant.
Isn't it? That is a huge chunk of that history.
It is.
Yeah.
What about you, Tony? Did you make any contact with any bands? Fan mail or pen pals or any?
I didn't really, Richie. I just, as I said, you'd pick up, unusual vinyls and stuff like that, and obviously if you went to see a gig here or in the UK, you might hang around afterwards and hopefully
and you might
bump
meet
into
someone,
them and get an autograph or a snap with them or something like that,
Yeah.
So as I said, the unusual vinyls would be kind of what you'd be looking for. And, if you were really interested, you could obviously write away to them and see what the...
Any particular vinyls that stand out for you that you loved?
Well, I think one of my favourite ones is the Motorhead No Sleep Hammersmith. It's a gold vinyl.
Gold.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. It's, I don't know. Obviously limited edition. How many of them is there? I couldn't tell you, but I bought that in England, in London, and I'll never forget it for the whole... When I bought it, I came home and myself, my brother Aiden's a huge metal fan. We had bunk beds and you couldn't see the ceiling or the walls with the posters we had, and there was a big Motorhead poster, I'd say about 4 feet wide, up in the ceiling with the Holy Trinity, Fast Eddie, Lemmy and Phil, and I'd say for the whole summer I put it on and played it to death. And I met a guy there about, I'd say 5 years ago. The guy I hadn't seen for years, and he says, I'll always remember, he says, that No Sleep Hammersmith. He said, you fucking wore it down, he says. But it's just one of those ones, but that was, I'd say, it's one of my favourites.
Yeah, and sure, of course.
It's sentimental too, like,
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
My brother had that on cassette, actually, so I inherited that when he left.
Yeah.
And it was just fascinating, just even opening up the cassette and seeing the live pictures and going, imagine being at that. What year was that, lads? Any idea? 83, I guess?
That was earlier.
It was earlier.
81.
Was it about 80? Was it 81?
80 or 81, wasn't it?
Around 80, 81.
Yeah. Did any of you get a chance to see Motorhead by any chance?
It's a story I don't tell. It's a story I don't tell too often. I don't know if Pat's aware of it. Probably are, I'd say. In 1981, Motorhead were touring, and it was the Ace of Spades tour.
Right.
And they were coming to Ireland.
Okay.
And myself, my wife, and Michael Milner, great friend of mine, back in the day, we were at the three of us were joined at the hip, and myself and Michael were huge into Motorhead.
Okay.
So we got wind of it that they were coming. So, as we mentioned earlier about Pat Egan's, we went into Pat Egan's inside in the Queen's Ark Castle, and we bought our tickets for it.
Right.
And I just kind of refreshed my mind the other night about it, just to make sure I was right. And I knew the date even before I googled it. It was the 22nd of December, 1981. So we went away. We got our bullet belts, our jackets, the whole lot. Our Motorhead t-shirts were pressed and cleaned. So off in town, strutting down the South Mall. Could see the City Hall. They were playing the City Hall. Could see the City Hall. Walking down along. Obviously, no social media, no phones, nothing. This guy walks against us. He says, "You won't believe it. The gig is cancelled." And I says, "Not a hope." I says, "No way it could be cancelled. We know they're played in Dublin last night, or they're playing Dublin tomorrow, whatever."
Okay.
He says, "No, I'm telling it's cancelled." So we walked up to City Hall, got to the door, and the man says, "Sorry lads, the gig is cancelled tonight." It was our first and only opportunity to see the three lads together.
Yeah.
So
the Trinity, as we call it.
Yeah. And the man says, "No, the gig is cancelled completely." He says, and I said, "What's the reason?" He said, this was what they said anyway, is that the City Hall wouldn't allow him hang the bomber up over the stage.
Oh,
and they pulled the plug on it.
Jesus.
A few days later, we brought our tickets back and got a refund, and it was, do you know what?
That's
It was like a death in the family, because
yeah.
the excitement for weeks was unbelievable. We said eventually we're going to see him, and the next time I saw Motorhead after that was the Another Perfect Day tour with Brian Robertson.
Right.
And
I think Martin commented on that. They weren't great.
Yeah, the sound, like, it was outdoor. The sound was, whirling around, like, and yeah. So that was the only my only opportunity to catch him, but unfortunately not.
Were you a fan, Pat, of Motorhead?
Do you know something? I was never a big Motorhead fan.
Okay.
I liked the albums, like, but I never fell in love with them the way other people did.
Yeah,
like, you know what I
yeah.
mean? You know, I did see him once. I actually saw him on my honeymoon.
Did you?
In Mannheim, in Germany, back in 2000. You know.
Yeah.
That was a happy coincidence.
Happy. We were in Heidelberg, which is just down the road, and we saw an ad up for Metal 2000, and there was Slayer, there was Maiden, there was Maiden by headline, there was Slayer, there was Motorhead and Running Wild, all in this thing. So I said to the wife, "Look, it's a no-brainer, like, you know what I mean? As you do on your honeymoon."
Of course, yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I have a present for you.
Yeah, I know, yeah. You know,
Yeah.
but, she clearly she listens to this, like, but there's brilliant as well. We're going to see, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. What about Iron Maiden? Are you fans?
Yeah, I love Maiden.
Yeah.
So can any of you remember the first time you saw him?
Yeah, Dublin, 1990.
Okay. Which tour was that?
There was No Prayer for the Dying tour.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was the first time in Ireland.
I'm not a fan of that album, but anyway,
Yeah,
go on.
not particularly, no. But look, it was the first time ever coming to
Yeah.
Ireland. Wolfsbane supported. Never thought much of them myself, like, But Maiden was fantastic to see him. Like, to be honest, I've seen Maiden 6 times over the years, like, you know what I mean.
Right.
But they've always put on a fantastic show, like, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
They do. I caught him, and it's one of my favourite gigs ever. Was Donington '88 Seven Sun tour.
Okay.
And
yeah.
Oh, the stage.
yeah,
Yes.
it was absolutely off the chart. It was spectacular.
Yeah.
It was night time, and as you said, the stage and stuff like that. 106,000 people, like, on a hill looking at this, and obviously, the Guns N' Roses, Halloween, David Lee Roth, Guns, so it was it was my first time being at Donington, and it was absolutely, but Maiden Seven Sun tour, it was brilliant.
That was a concept album as well, wasn't
It
it?
was,
was,
yeah, it was
Yeah.
great.
I left them after that.
Yeah.
Summer in time probably, and then after that I listened to Seven Son, and I just, like, a lot of people loved that album, you know,
yeah.
and I just went not too sure about it. And then it was a Can I Play With Madness, and
Oh, yeah.
I
Yeah,
just
yeah,
lost it then.
yeah,
Good luck, It was interesting because you were saying the same. It's just people's opinions. You were saying the same about Sepultura as well.
Yeah.
How did you come across them? Can you remember?
Came across them. I actually got their Schizophrenia album before they became huge. I thought Schizophrenia was... I got that and Morbid Visions together and Basically Devastation. The first three of them together on the one package. I thought Schizophrenia was out of this world at the time. Like, you know what I mean? Amazing. Nobody had heard of them, you know. And then Beneath the Remains came out and, blew the fucking roof off the place. Like, you know what I mean? To me, that was their pinnacle. Like, Beneath the Remains is absolutely outstanding, like, in every way. Like, you know? I remember when it came out and they showed footage. I remember watching the footage over a friend's house. He had MTV because we didn't know MTV, but they did a Headbangers Ball special. It was live at the Marquee, you know, and they had the footage of their show in the Marquee supporting Sodom, like, you know what I mean? And they played In Herself and Stronger Than Hate, and you know the reaction from the people after the gig. There was Don Kay from Kerrang was interviewed, a few more. And their minds were blown. Like, they were comparing it was the best thing they'd ever seen outside of Slayer. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Some people were saying it was even better than Slayer. Like, and you know, it was absolutely unbelievable. Like, you know, and I saw them then the following May in the Top Hat in Dunleary.
That's right.
They did their Beneath the Remains headline tour.
That was
absolutely brilliant.
Oh, it was phenomenal.
Yeah, unbelievable. You know, but I think that was their pinnacle. Arise came afterwards. I thought Arise is okay, but I thought it was a bit overproduced. I think Andy Wallace is involved in the production of that.
It was, you're right.
That's right, yeah.
And to me, it just wasn't... I still like the album, don't get me wrong, but I think they were on a downward slope. I think Chaos ID, when it came out, I hated it.
You were gone,
Roots, same. Like, I just never liked anything beyond.
Of course, Morris Sound, I think that was for Beneath the Remains. With Scott... Scott Burns, yeah. He produced some fantastic albums out there. A lot of bands went to him, you know. The Top Hat in Dunleary... a lot of people have never been there. What did it hold capacity wise, and was it cold, damp, dark place?
I'd say about 1,000 to 1,500
about
people.
That, yeah. Well, it was warm and sweaty when you were leaving, Richie.
It was never cold in there.
It was. I'd say some of the best gigs I ever seen was there.
Okay.
Yeah. I've seen.
As Pat said,
Sepultura definitely was off the charts. I saw Wasp in there. I saw Ingrid Malmsteen in there. I saw. Were you at the Anthrax one, Pat?
No, I didn't.
I was at the famous Anthrax one where they walked off the stage.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. Anthrax came on, playing a great set. Few songs into it. For some reason, a lot of guys up the front were spitting and glugging and stuff like that. And I think it was Scotty Ian came over and just said, "Look, any more spitting, and we're going to walk off the stage." And I'd say he hadn't finished the syllables. And this guy, a few people just glugged on top of him, and that was it.
Yeah.
Turned off the amps, turned off the stuff, and walked off the stage. And people were, you know, but you know, he was right. It was shocking, like, you know.
I don't understand why people would spit at Anthrax.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
You'd say something if it was a punk.
That's where it came from. It came from the punk.
Punk,
yeah,
yeah,
I mean?
Yeah,
and a lot of punks used to go to these gigs as well.
They
you
used
know
to,
Oh, was that it?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. That's
right, okay.
Yeah, you know.
Just because it followed the kind of heavy music, whatever.
Kind of trash and punk. There was always that bit of crossover.
There was a bit of crossover.
Yeah, they do, in
actually,
fairness. Yeah.
So they were the memorables. What about you, Pat, for the Top Hat?
Top Hat, I think Slayer in '88.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Slayer Nuclear Assault.
Oh,
yeah.
Absolutely unbelievable, you know. Savage altogether, you know. Blew my mind. I was only 18 years old, like, you know what I mean? But absolutely incredible, like, you know what I mean?
That was South of Heaven, wasn't it?
Yeah, South Heaven tour, it was, yeah.
Did any of you see Metallica in Top Hat?
I didn't.
I missed it.
No,
88,
no.
I missed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. I loved it. Danzig. They played 2 nights there.
They did too.
Yeah, 2 nights of Danzig supporting, you know.
I was never in. I don't think I was ever in the Top Hat. What did it look like? Was it kind of like the Academy scale wise? Is there anything you can compare it to?
The Academy. Do you know something? They turned it into a nice skating rink afterwards. That's
okay.
So
it was a nice sized venue.
It was a good sized venue.
Good size, and there was an upstairs one there.
There was an upstairs, kind of balcony. Yeah,
balcony area. That's right.
Yeah.
And was the balcony overlooking the stage, or was it back?
No, it was overlooking. It was overlooking the stage, but back. You know, you had the front crowd, and then say maybe 50 feet back. I'd say.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the stage, was that head height or was it lower?
It was head height.
Head height. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It was a good stage.
Right. And the sound was always good there. Yeah.
Savage.
It was great. Even Wasp, you know, like Chris Holmes and the lads. Oh, it was.
Yeah.
Great show, like, you know.
And that Wasp tour, was that the Electric Circus, or was it before?
It was the Headless Children.
Headless
Children. Yeah. Another great live band.
Great. Do you know, Richie, I'd say the last 4 or 5 times they've come, I've gone to see him because, you know, the show they put on is absolutely spectacular. And to me, anyway, as a fan, because you see Blackie Lawless and he's giving it his all out in front, singing and playing the guitar and stuff like that. But he has the projectors behind of the old videos of him 30 years ago, and every few minutes he turns on, he looks back at the screen, and I say you could nearly see tear in his eye. He's so excited about it, you know what I mean? And he plays on, and they put a super show on.
Okay.
I'd go and see him all the time if I could, but he's, you know, great.
A great band, in fairness. Like.
They are,
band,
like, you know.
Yeah.
Fate
No More, I still played there as well. Fate No More, actually, in 1990.
In the top hat,
Yeah, the top hat, yeah. Prong supported.
Oh, wow.
yeah,
the reason we kind of went, because DRI played the night before in McGonagall's.
Oh, yeah.
So
Never
we
seen
went for
DRI.
2 days. So we saw DRI the night before in McGonagall's, stayed overnight in a hostel, and went to Fate No More and Prong then the following night. Like, you know what I mean?
That's insane.
Dublin,
I mean, like when you think of the bands that were coming to Dublin, then, you know, it was like there was 3 or 4 tours always going through it, you know, and yet nothing down in Cork.
Nothing in Cork, yeah. I know.
Yeah. Like it was either Dublin or across the water, like, you know, went across the water a few times for some of the big shows, like, you know.
What was maybe any kind of standout shows? Probably what was your first 3 or 4 shows that you went across? Probably London anyway. Was
London, yeah. I'd say, like, as I said, no, Donington obviously in '88, but I'd say one of my favourite few band on the bill was Clash of Titans in 1990 in Wembley.
Oh wow!
And that was absolutely mind blowing. It really was, because at the time, Megadeth, Slayer,
They were all at
Testament,
the peak.
they were bang on the money, like, you know.
Yeah.
They were really, you know, things were just fitting perfectly, and suicidal tendencies in, like. So we went off out to Wembley in October 1990 and met a few lads from Cork over there. I met Paul Maguire there.
Oh, Paul,
Yeah, and another few lads from Cork, and
Right.
we went, and it was absolutely spectacular. It really was, you know. Slayer headlined, and that was fabulous. It really was.
So that was 1990.
1990, yeah.
Okay, I'm just trying to think. Testament would have been Souls
Souls of Black, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And at the time, I was a huge Testament fan, big guitar fan, especially Alex Skolnick, known guys like that, you know. And I think it was the day before, Tower Records were doing a meet and greet, and Vanessa Warwick out of Headbangers Ball,
yeah.
she was cruising up and down outside, chatting to people. Where are you from? And we're from Ireland. We're from Cork. Oh, hopefully we'll get to meet the lads inside. And we went in, but I actually had the Souls of Black vinyl with me. I think I bought it in Tower Records actually
Right.
before I went in, and went in, and we got a photograph with all the lads. I got the album signed by each one of them, even Louis Clement on the drums, like, you know, which was
That's a nice one to have.
scarce enough, like, you
Yes.
know. And got photographs with the lads, and I had a leather biker jacket on me,
Okay.
and I said, well, keep going. So they signed the back of the jacket for me then in silver pen, like, you know.
Right.
So sure, that was took off straight away, like, and hidden, you know. So Testament, Souls of Black at that time.
They're a band actually that will never play a bad show. They're
Yeah,
always really strong, really
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
I've seen them a load of times.
Yeah.
Chuck Billy is probably one of the best frontmen out there.
He's great. Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
just the way he can command an audience.
yeah, he's great. I went to see them in London there for the Live in London DVD that I borrowed at that time. Remember the Live?
Oh, I do, yeah. I do.
So
Yeah.
in the Cocoa Club in London, I was at that gig, like, you know, and it was great because you're looking for something in the crowd going, is that me there? Or, you know,
Yeah,
but, you know, it's kind of more sentiment too, like.
Did you get over much to England, Pat?
I got over to the first time I got to England was in '91, and that was to see Slayer on the Decade of Aggression tour. They played the Hammersmith Odeon. I went over with my Todd, first time ever in London, like pure paddy over in London, like, you know. Arrived over the ferry, you know, Stafford's.
that was the way to go,
You know,
like, yeah.
arrived in Victoria Station 6 o'clock in the morning, knew nothing about tubes or nothing and the whole lot, like, you know. I just stood there trying to gather my bearings for about an hour. But look, I got there and I ended up in a place called the Mail Coach Inn out in Shepherd's Bush.
Yeah.
You know, but I got there anyway, and Slayer were out of this world, like, you know what I mean.
Right.
Mindfunk didn't really care about him, like, you know what I
Oh,
mean.
Mindfunk supported them,
They
yeah.
supported
Yeah,
that
yeah.
time,
They had a great first album. I liked it anyway. The first
yeah,
album.
I never
with
liked
them.
it. Two guys from was it MOD? Was it?
Oh, yeah.
Louis Switek and some other fella
Yeah,
played
sorry.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Funk, yeah.
Yeah, that's funny now you brought them up because myself and Martin Welch were talking about them. He actually gave me that album. The second album was not worth mentioning, you know.
Yeah.
But so then from England, did you get across to Europe much?
Not back then anyway.
No.
Not for me anyway. Like,
No,
just,
Okay.
flights were too expensive back then. Like, you
It
know what I mean?
was, yeah, you're
Yeah,
right. Yeah,
crazy,
you'd have
like
to actually go across land really by bus.
It was, by ferry. That's what we did. Like, just 40,
Ferry,
I think 40 quid for the ferry. Was
That,
it? You know,
that came from Tralee first,
Yeah,
and
that's
something
right,
like,
yeah.
beforehand.
it was like a 17-hour trip or
It
something.
was
Crazy.
unreal, yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember. They probably had a Jacks on the bus, did they? Or had they?
I can't remember.
remember.
They must
Well,
have.
whether there was smoking or non-smoking didn't matter anyway, because there was probably smoking all the way over and back.
Yeah, when you think of it, like, it's crazy. You see, this is the whole idea of this show as well, just to kind of, to leave people know the actual suffering you had to do on a bus for 17 hours, try and sleep on a bus seat even. It was just hellish. The shows then in Cork, I think, came along to Cruishkeen Lawn. Can you remember those, Tony? I suppose the Winterfest and them started around 2006.
That's right, yeah.
What are your memories of that? As a venue, first of all, can any of you remember when they started playing metal music there? Was it around then, probably, was it?
Probably around then, I'd say, Rich, yeah.
Who bought it or who owned it then?
The only, I started kind of going in there as such when Kieran O'Riordan was running it and Jim Tobin was doing gigs and stuff,
Yes, Jim from Sirocco.
Yeah,
Again,
Jim from Sirocco.
Another shout out to
Yeah,
Jim.
yeah, good old Jim.
Yeah.
And like that, no, there was bands coming there and I was saying, surely that can't be that band or this band, and and I'd say, we'll go and have a look, and lo and behold, you go in and there was, Napalm Death or whoever inside there, and you're kind of going, this is unbelievable.
Well, you actually, one of the, I would compare it to Acid Rain. Was Exodus. And if you say Exodus,
Yeah,
Exodus,
I did, yeah.
that was just
That was
mental.
unbelievable.
Just to have Gary
Holt,
them.
yeah,
Holt,
it was a great gig, that.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
really in
yeah.
their face, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I remember going to see what did I see inside there now?
Ball thrower played there.
Boyle Short, that's who I was looking for.
Yeah.
And it was so loud inside there that when I came out, I wasn't drinking. I was
Right.
driving home,
Okay.
and I stopped the car about 4 times on the road because I thought the windows were open, but it was actually the buzzing in my ears was just,
Yeah. It was loud.
it was loud. Oh, but a great gig again,
Never saw Ball Thrower.
Yeah.
Gut wrenching, actually.
Like as you said, Pat did some
Yeah.
great
Oh,
savage bands inside there.
And speaking of Ball thrower, actually, as well, the time they played Dublin, go back to your point earlier about gigs being cancelled, they played 91 in Dublin, right?
Okay.
Just going back to the time there was no social media, there was no networking or nothing. We all tore up in the train up to Dublin for the gig. I remember being in the sound cellar. There was guys from Galway, from Sligo, from Limerick and all there, and we were all told the gig was after being cancelled.
Yeah.
We don't understand, no explanation. But look, they were rescheduling it for a few weeks later, and everyone had taken time off work. I think it was a Thursday or Friday, so people had taken 2 days off work to stay in a hostel to come back the following day. So people were gutted, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it just shows you back then that, like, when there's no kind of form of communication, that,
Of course.
No,
know,
exactly. You wouldn't.
you wouldn't have a clue, like, you know what I mean?
No.
You know?
Unless you rang the sound setter and they might have the news, maybe.
Yeah.
What tour was that? Can you remember?
That was the War Master tour.
All right, so that
Yeah.
was probably one of the first ones then.
Yeah, it was
it?
in 91, yeah.
Yeah.
It was their second time in Ireland, actually. They played in Ireland a couple of years before that.
I think they're a band that actually grew in stature after they broke up. People actually got into them even more so and just realised they were one of the best English bands.
Yeah.
know,
Their early albums are brilliant.
long
in fairness,
time.
Yeah, I haven't, to be honest, like, after the Fourth Crusade, and what was the one after that? I can't remember what it's even called now, like, you know, I just, you know, it became a bit samey for me, like, you know.
Okay.
I like the early ones, that's just my own opinion, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I have that opinion about a lot of bands anyway, like, you know what I mean? But that's just me, like.
How did you actually stray into black metal?
I got into it probably through death metal. There was, again, I got big into death metal back in 88, 89. I started tape trading with people all around the world.
Right.
That's how I made some contacts now, like, like Murray, you know, from Psy, let's say, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mick F. Payne Nazarene. I used to write to him. We used to trade tapes. Guys from the States, I used to get demo tapes, and they'd send me stuff that they copied, and I'd send stuff back, like, you know what I mean?
Okay.
So that was how we heard a lot of the underground stuff back then, like, you know what I mean?
Right.
Was through tape trading, like, you know what I mean?
Yes.
You know, and it was great. Like, I remember I put an ad into Metal Forces, I think it was back in 1989, and just gave a list of all the kind of underground death metal bands that I was looking for, like, you know what I mean? And I got inundated with letters in the post saying, would you people send me their lists, and I'd send them back their list, and, like, and we just start trading tapes with each other, like, you know what I mean? So in no time at all, you'd be gathering up a big collection of kind of underground stuff, like, you know.
Yeah.
And that's from there. Then I suppose then the next progression was black metal, like, you know what I mean. So a lot of the time was there was a bit of a crossover between death and black metal, like, you know.
Yes, there was.
Some bands like Acheron out from the States, like, would have been seen as black metal, but more death metal sound wise, like, you know what I mean. Or a lot of death metal bands were kind of more satanic themes,
Yeah.
you know, kind of turned into black metal bands along the way and things like that. So there was
It's a hard genre to get into, black metal, because it is so extreme.
Yeah.
Are you a fan, Tony? Like, you're probably like me. You can only go so far. And
Yeah, you see, no, in fairness, there's some absolute brilliant bands out there, but I wouldn't have the, what Pat would know in that sense. Like,
Yes.
he's back cataloguing, his encyclopedia of these bands as such, you know. Me being kind of more a guitar player myself, I'm kind of more along the melodic type of metal, like, you know, mainly thrash or something along that lines, you know.
Yeah.
Or, you know, guitar players like Satriani and stuff like that, and Steve Vai and Malmsteen and stuff. So back from the 80s. But black metal, I'd listen to a few bands now, but I wouldn't know half a Pat's ones there. Like,
it's just Celtic Frost would have opened the doors for a lot of us.
That's right, yeah.
Incredible band. So from there, where would you have gone from?
like Battery as well. Like
Battery, of
Like
course.
Battery,
Yeah.
like, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, that was just that was like the prototype black metal album under the sign of the Black Mark.
Right.
I mean, what came afterwards was kind of, you could nearly say it mimicked the sound that they had in that, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That was 1987.
Right.
Unbelievable. When I heard that album back then, it blew my mind completely. I couldn't believe what I was hearing, like, you know. I remember reading a review, I think it was Kerrang, and they said Quarton has some of the most alienating voices on the planet, like, you know what I mean? And they weren't far wrong, like, I mean, the album is unnatural, like, you know what I mean, for its time, like, you know.
Yeah, 87.
Yeah.
87, wow. Then we'll say, like, when actually did it get that extreme? Can you remember a change? I suppose it is going back again to that Lords of Chaos movie. I keep referencing that, but when did it actually change to become really extreme, really elitist? Because there is a section of, I suppose, is it Norwegian or Sweden, that kind of went that way, that brought it an extra step further. And you being the expert, that's why I just want to know.
I suppose the whole lifestyle aspect is it. I suppose that when they, like, a lot of people at the time, kind of like, there was this so-called inner circle in Norway, like, you know what I mean, which, you know, certain bands adhere to. Euronymous was kind of leader of that whole inner circle as such. And
of course, you were talking to them by
I
letter.
actually spoke to Euronymous on the phone. You know, I phoned.
Did you?
I did, yeah.
Wow.
You know, and I used to write to him as well, like, you know what I mean. But it was always nothing like you'd see in the film. Very, very pleasant guy, very, very mannerly.
Jeez.
You know,
Yeah.
on the phone, like, no issue at all. Say with letters, none of this kind of you know, die in pain and kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like, he was always very polite.
Okay.
You know, most of them were, like, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
That's probably one of the things in the film that's probably blown a bit out of proportion. Is the characters, like, you know what I mean, are a bit, you know,
Exaggerated.
yeah, exactly. Like, you know what I mean. But I suppose it was the whole far right kind of burning churches because they're built in sacred Viking soil, like, you know what I mean. That's where the whole you know, lifestyle black metal thing kind of came together, like, you know what I mean. So
but the music didn't reflect that, did it?
music, maybe the lyrics as such, but not the music itself, like, you know what I mean. I think the music, to me, the music was probably no more extreme than what Battery were doing 5 or 6 years earlier, like, you know what I mean. I don't think so anyway, to my ears, like, you know what I mean.
Yeah,
You know?
there's another band there. Entombed.
Entombed, yeah.
You a fan of them?
Yeah, I love the first couple of albums.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
Left Hand Path, Clandestine,
Yeah.
great albums, you know.
Yeah.
You
So
know?
like you could kind of see it. They were kind of actually kind of branching out themselves as well. You know, I suppose with every scene that's there is subgenres that kind of came out of it. It never kind of got that way. It just died, didn't it? Really,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
was a pity.
Yeah.
You know.
It did, yeah. I think what happened was thrash was kind of on the way out, and people were looking for the new extreme, like, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And death metal was the logical, you know, thing for
Next
that, like, you know
That's
what I mean.
actually a good
Yeah.
point.
Yeah,
Yeah,
next
that's the
step,
way it
like
went.
You know, back then everything was kind of the faster the better. I remember when Napalm Death released Scum back in '87.
That's right.
People just couldn't believe it. Like, it was just a wall of noise, like, you know what I mean. You know, but it was just like everything had to be harder and faster than what came before, like, you know.
Yeah.
And that's what the kids wanted back then, was, you know, the heaviest that you could get, like, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So that's where the death metal came in, you know.
A lot of those bands though didn't really tour. So how would you How would you see him?
Well, I suppose Entombed did probably tour. I know they played in the UK and stuff around 91, like, you know what I mean?
Right.
There was a good few, like, I remember Nocturnus played, Morbid Angel played, I seen Morbid Angel in Unleashed in Dublin back in 91, like, you know what I mean? Death played Dublin twice.
Have you seen that? Yeah.
Yeah, I seen him, first time was without Chuck. That's when they played a Creator that time in 1990, the Top Hat.
Yeah.
Right.
And the second time was in McGonagall's. They played at Load Blast, and that was with Chuck, like, you know.
Brilliant.
You know, so that was a fantastic gig, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Brilliant.
You know?
There's another venue there, McGonagall's.
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant venue, yeah.
Any memories of that? Any particular bands?
Sacred Reich, Morbid Angel Unleashed, DRI, Atrophy, Sacred Reich.
A trophy and Sacred
Yeah.
Jesus.
You know,
Okay.
Kevin Whelan, actually, a guy from Yall.
Yeah, I know Kev, yeah.
He actually came up to us at that.
Did he?
For that gig, yeah. That's why I got to know Kev initially, like, you know what I
Okay.
mean? You know, but who else played there? Carcass played there. Boltor played there initially. Morgoth, Massacre and Immolation played there in 1991.
Yeah, so you
was
did
Some gigs in it. Yeah.
Savage amount of gigs there,
yeah.
there was, you know.
yeah, another place that's gone.
Yeah.
Acid Rain, actually, I saw them in August 89, 6 months before the Henry's gig.
Yeah.
And Killer Watt supported them
Did
that
they
time.
support them, I think?
Yeah, up in McGonagall's. you know, so. And Sabat, I saw Sabat there.
Oh, yeah.
As
Sabat
well.
and Zentrix.
Yeah.
And Zentrix was the first of 4 times I'd seen them. They supported Sabat November 89, and they played 3 more times after that. Like, you
They're a
know.
brilliant live band, aren't they?
Brilliant.
Have you seen them?
I
Tom?
have. I've seen them a few times, yeah.
They came to. Did they come to Cork?
Did it?
Zentrix,
yeah.
They
Did
came to Nancy's.
Nancy Spains, yeah.
Nancy Spains, yeah.
yeah.
Was that Shattered Existence or one before that? It might have been Shattered
Shadow Existence, I'd say, yeah.
Yeah, it
I'd say
was,
yeah. Yeah, like, you know, getting back to Cork, you know, for venues and things like that, back in the day, like, as I said to you earlier on, Henry's and stuff like that, like, I don't think too many people amongst ourselves, outside of ourselves, would know about the time that Schenker played there. Michael Schenker played in Sir Henry's, you know. And as you said, we'll go up at about Wolfsbane.
Wolfsbane, yeah.
They played Cork.
Did it? That's right.
Down with Mojo's. It was
Mojo's, that's
inside
right. That's where they
Mojo's.
played. You're dead right. I went that one, actually.
Were you at that one?
I didn't go to it.
I went to that, like,
yeah.
you know, and I'd say there was Mojo's wasn't ginormous, like, you know, and there was Blaze Bailey was singing with him with his
Blaze
band.
Bailey, yeah, she went on to Iron Maiden then.
Yeah, and that was late 80s or
It was
around that, like, you know, and we'd heard about them and we'd seen, you know, their albums they brought out, and we said we're going to have a look, and Jesus, was only about, I'd say 50 or 60 people in there, like, but it was a good gig to catch, like, you know. The band were brilliant, the guitar player was superb, and I remember seeing, I was saying to Pat earlier, I'd seen, I'm trying to remember what the name of the venue was. It was Oliver Plunkett Street, but Uli Roth, his brother Zeno Roth, guitar player as well,
right,
played some, I know it was the Black Bush or something, as we said earlier on,
some
club anyway, like, you know. And I remember going, there was a late gig, it was kind of starting about 10:30, 11 o'clock at night.
Was it Zoe's, though?
There you go, Zoe's, you're
right,
bang on. Yeah, you're bang on. So, and we knew, obviously, with the Scorpions and whatever, Uli Roth and things like that, so we said we'd go and have a look, and like that again, there was probably 30 or 40 people in there, like, you know, but kind of unusual gigs that went on that people wouldn't have heard of, like, you know.
Who would have got Michael Schechner in, though? That's bizarre.
Yeah.
It's a really strange one, isn't it?
Yeah, it was, he had what you call with him that time, Emma Macaulay, the singer, and but it was a great gig.
And your photographic evidence.
As I showed you the photos earlier, and they're
pretty good.
You know, for a wind-up camera back in that day, like, you know, it was.
I think in a lot of cases back then, though, I think if the bands were playing Dublin, you know, they were put on the City Hall as well. Like,
they were, because even if you go back through, you know, the old archives there, you can see
the Rory Gallagher Tour '84.
That's right. Yeah.
Like, he played Dublin, he played Belfast.
That's
he
right.
Played all the first week of January.
That's right.
You know?
So, it was a run then back to Cork, was it?
Yeah.
You
know. It made sense really to put bands on in Cork, because, you know, they're getting value for money at least. Like, you couldn't bring a band in just to play in Cork and have them to fly back, because
it wouldn't pay. It wouldn't
pay.
Not at all.
Did you play in a band yourself, Tony?
I did for a while, Richie, back in the 90s, Mortuary, thrash metal band,
Have you the demo pad, have you? Did you write them?
No, Tony, you're supposed to give me a live tape or something.
We have a version of that for you. We're going to put onto the CD for you. I don't know, did it come out of the disc or what, but I listened to it a few months ago, and it was good to reminisce, because at the time Nancy's was really taken off, as you said, there, Obituary and Paradise Lost, Zentrix, and some absolute cracking bands inside there. And a lot of these gigs were afternoon gigs, kind of, a lot of youngsters in there, and like the Schenker one there, in Henry's photographs. I would say, as I said to you earlier on there, we said my wife, when we'd go, we'd always bring a camera with us. It would be one of the wind up ones, and we'd wait a week or two, and we'd go in off in town to Partick Street, and we'd hand him in over the counter and
hope for the best.
But no matter if they were good or bad, we'd always get about 3 copies done.
Okay.
So you could have 3 copies of A Ceiling, but you might have 3 copies of Paradise Lost, or which we had,
Really.
And
I have to bring you back now to Martry. I'm intrigued. What were you? Were you trash band?
Trash band, yeah, trash band. And
what members were in the band? Can you remember?
Yeah, Dicey was a drummer, and absolutely, he was only a teenager. He was absolutely superb drummer altogether.
Right.
Rory was a bass player, and Alan Butt was with us. Mick O'Connor was singing.
Right. Okay.
And
did any of those lads then go on to other bands?
Yeah. Well, Alan Butt and Mick O'Connor, they were with there was Mr. NSF, and there was Judgment as well.
Judgment,
yeah, as well,
Okay.
But at the time, then you had Judgment, ourselves, and you had Chemical as well.
Right. So there was 3.
There was about 3 or 4 bands floating around, and we used to all practice. There was practice rooms down George's Quay. There was Fitzpatrick's Junk Shop, Pat, remember?
I do remember, chap.
And the only way to describe it, and anybody that's listening will just, it was like the young ones, the house the young ones lived in. Because when you walk in, there was no lights going up the stairs. There was 3 or 4 floors, and you'd be kind of feeling your way up the walls till you get to the rooms. And every room we passed, there was bands practicing, and 95% of the bands were thrash or metal.
Right.
And there was some absolutely cracking guys practicing there,
And how much did you have to pay for the rent then? Can you remember?
Oh, man.
Was it cheap, is it?
It was dirt cheap, because we'd all chip in, and but you'd be in there, you might have no party inside there, or you could be jamming. You go into the Phoenix to listen to metal, come out, go back up to George's Quay, plug in all the gear, the Marshall amps, the drum kits, the whole lot, and you'd be blasting metal 2 o'clock in the morning. And the landlord then would come along, and he'd run up the stairs, and he'd fucking pull out the plugs into it. But as I said, there was some absolutely fantastic bands inside there. Guys who'd passed, they'd be playing Annihilator stuff down to a T. Alison Hell, and they're kind of going, mother of God.
Yeah.
It wasn't a record, it wasn't a tape, it was a guy playing, the band's playing these things,
How would a band back then get a demo made? Was there only one or 2 studios around? Can any of you remember?
Yeah, there was I'd say maybe 2 or 3 studios, and we didn't have the gift of modern technology and digital and things like that. So you'd go off and you'd hire out a studio for a day,
right?
And please God, you were all on the ball, and you'd go in and record your tracks, and
you'd have it on cassette.
You'd have it on cassette then, and obviously burn off a copy for each other then,
Yeah.
But as you said, by the time you get to the 5th copy, it wouldn't sound as good as the first one at all.
That was really it for then a while, in relation to Cork bands coming through. Can any of you remember, we'll say, any follow-ons through into the 2000s? No? It's strange. The reason I'm bringing it up is just that a lot of lads drifted away from it.
They did. I think I know a lot of lads who were there back in the late 80s, when the whole kind of Henry's kind of dance and ecstasy scene came along. We lost it. There was a lot of followers that time, you know what I mean? Fellas disappeared off the scene, and we didn't see them again for years later, you know what I mean? I think that probably hurt the scene a bit, actually, didn't it?
It did really. It did, because the potential for Nancy Spain's at the time was, as we said, incredible,
and it wasn't as if we were short people there. Those gigs were busy.
They were busy gigs.
They were busy.
There were, in fairness,
there
was there was fairly full gigs.
Yeah.
There were, and it was a great venue and great setup, Yes.
I actually remember. Do you remember when Primordial played their first gig down here?
Yeah.
They played Nancy Spain's.
Yeah.
That was their first. There was them, 50 Million. They came out from Dublin. Places packed to the rafters, because Primordial you know, were getting massive reviews through their demo, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And they had
yeah.
this kind of black metal persona, like, about them, like, you know.
Right.
Alan Naver at the time, the singer, like, used to come out with the corpse paint on.
That's right.
With black candles and all that, like, you know what I mean? And they had this very dark vibe about them, so with the black metal thing was kind of in vogue at the time. The place was packed, I remember that, like, you know what I mean? You know?
Now, before we move on, I asked Toby for 5 of your favourite albums, the album art.
Just to clarify, no, these are album art, not necessarily favourite albums.
no,
Oh, yeah.
it's album.
Album art, like, isn't it?
Yeah, album
kind of
art, yeah.
Album art,
and
yeah.
covers, like,
So, Pat, the first one for you was Celtic Frost into the Megatheron. What stood out for you for that?
It's just, it's a H.R. Geiger painting, like, you know what I mean? It just, to me, it just represents, it's evil looking, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know? I just fell in love with it. To be honest, I can't even explain why. It's just one of these things that
It's
you know,
you'll
there's
remember
certain
it.
album covers, you know, that just resonate you from back then, like, you know what I mean? And that's one of them, like, you know.
Okay, cool.
You know?
Tony, Black Sabbath.
Yeah, like that. No, Rich, as I said earlier, first album I really heard from start to finish, and just made such an impression on me. And to look at the album, I just said, you know, the
That's-
cover itself is just
That's the one with the
so
mysterious
yeah,
woman. And,
yeah. It's just so symbolic, really. Like, you know,
yeah, cool.
you know, kind of one of the you know, such a big influence in the metal scene, like, you know,
Yeah.
way back.
Right. Back to Pat Battery. Blood, Fire, Death.
Yeah. Again, it's a 19th century painting, right? But the whole theme, like the first one of the first songs in the album, the intro, Odin's Ride Over Nordland.
Okay.
That's pretty much what you see in the cover, like, you know what I mean? I think
Yeah.
it's just, it represents it so well, like, you know. That,
That's basically it. I suppose you summed it up there. Over to you, Tony. Judas Priest, Painkiller.
Yeah, I suppose, you know,
It's a great album cover,
It's
by
a
the way.
great album
It's
cover,
really
and
cool.
like that. No, again, Richie, it was just that I caught him on that tour in Dublin in the SFX, and it was just one of those gigs that blew me away. It really was. And Halford and the lads, they were just on fire. And even in a small venue like that, the SFX was one of the past
great venue.
great
Yeah,
venue.
it was a great venue.
He
I
still
was
managed to
there.
get the bike on the stage, like, you know, and mother of God, the whole place was just shaking from top to bottom. And plus then was obviously Annihilator were supporting, like, you know.
Oh, was it? Yeah.
Yeah, and
nice.
it was-
That's a
it was
great combination.
Absolutely superb, like, you know. But you know, Painkiller, great album cover. Just every time you look at it, like, you think
It's
back to that.
iconic.
Exactly, it is.
Yeah.
It is.
Pat, this is one I couldn't find out anything about it.
Pat will tell you.
Savage, Loose and Lethal.
Lucy Needle, yeah. It's just, you know something, the cover just screams to me heavy metal.
Yes, it
This
does.
fella in a trike coming up with kind of what looks like an angle grinder in his hand, and he's just slashing into the side of it. This guy's head, this kind of armor guy's head. It's just, it's brilliant. Like, it's nothing in terms of, you know, great art or anything, but
Yeah.
it just screams metal.
It
like,
does, yeah.
you
It's
know,
a great example
you know,
of it, yeah.
Yeah.
Again, and this is one that's a quote that we all know, actually. Testament, Souls of Black.
Yeah, just going back to the time on that tour, the Clash Titans tour, Richie really is just, you know, it was just such a few days to be, you know, part of that tour, part of that show, and, you know, it was just such a great time to meet the guys and get the autographs and the photographs.
Oh, sure,
and,
yeah, of course.
you know,
yeah.
so
Yes.
that's it. Like, it's kind of always a look back on, you know.
He actually did the New Order, Practice What You Preach, The Ritual, and The Very Best of Testament. His name was William Benson, and Souls of Black, yeah.
Yeah.
So this is an easy one. Back over to you, Pat. Iron Maiden Killers.
Yeah. Absolutely. As I explained earlier,
Yeah.
first time I ever saw that record, picked it up, you know, didn't know anything about Iron Maiden, you know what I mean? But just the logo and the art just drew me in completely, and it just had to get it, like, you know what I mean? It's just, it's one of these albums, like, it's still stayed with me since I was a kid, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I still love it to this day.
Yeah, it's
Even
a
when I
heavy
take it
metal.
out and still look at the artwork, it still, you know, blows my mind. like,
It
yeah.
is, and it's a good example of the genre of heavy metal.
It is, yeah.
You have a monster holding an axe.
Exactly, yeah.
And this is actually good. It's Iron Maiden, Number of the Beast for you, Tony.
Yeah, coincidentally, I was actually thinking the Killers myself as well
Okay.
for that, like, you know. But no, Number of the Beast is just one of those ones, you know. Growing up, it was just when Maiden were on the ball, like, it was a great time for him at that stage, you know. And it was just one that I look at and kind of go, yeah, it was a really good time.
Here's one for you. Derek Riggs, as we all know, is the artist, but he doesn't do any painting anymore because he got heavy metal poisoning from the paint. So he does digital art form now.
Right.
So there's
Was that the whole reason he fell out with Maiden? Or just
yeah,
was it for
well,
Maiden?
no, it was it Rod Smallwood? is it?
Smallwood, yeah, the manager.
Yeah, they really annoyed him. He was fairly critical of him actually,
Yeah.
but yeah, that was he kind of moved on from him then, you know.
Yeah.
Which is a pity because I
course.
mean he's iconic,
Yeah.
you know, really. Like Pat, creator, Pleasure to Kill,
Yeah.
fairly
No.
iconic as well.
It's fairly iconic, yeah. And like Pleasure to Kill, like the art sums it up. It's done by a guy Phil Over. He did a lot of covers for noise artists back in the day.
You're spot
You
on,
know?
correct.
Yeah.
He did Death Row, Halloween, Vendetta.
Vendetta, yeah, that's right.
Did you like them?
I do. I love them. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great band. And the last one, Over to Tony, which is a great one actually, Motorhead, Overkill.
Yeah, as I said, you know, not everybody's cup of tea, but huge Motorhead fan, and you know, as I said, Overkill, great album, great cover. You know, obviously you've other ones, but it's just one of those ones that you could spot a mile away.
Yeah,
It's just kind of it means a lot. It's a great, really graphics great on it, like, you know.
yeah, he did that in a week and a half.
Wow.
The artist.
Wow.
So so that's it, lads. Thanks a million for coming. You know, it went fast, didn't it?
Went fast, yeah,
Yeah.
it did.
1 hour and 8 minutes.
But even there, Richie, speaking of killers, before we go, like,
Yeah, go on, yeah.
Paul Diano above Nancy Spain's.
That's right.
Remember that?
I do.
Yeah.
When was that?
That was 2005, was it?
On that,
Wrote
yeah.
that.
And he played much golf afterwards. And a few years later, he played inside in Cypress Avenue as well.
He did. I only saw him in Nancy's though.
Just the Nancy's,
you know?
yeah.
I
How
wasn't
did he
too
come
impressed with him,
across?
though, to be honest.
Okay.
I don't know. How was you? Do you think he was good?
There was hardly nobody at it.
No.
Really?
And the same night, I think Maiden were involved in some ginormous tour. Like they were, I don't know, it was a Rock in Rio or something like that.
Yeah.
And I'm looking up and kind of going, you know, it's how the two things, you know, vary. Like, you know.
Yeah, it's ironic, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it is really.
Yeah, and the vocal performance from him on, you saw two, was it, Tony?
Yeah, two. Yeah,
And we're-
Nancy's and
Do you think it was the right decision to get rid of him?
I suppose he, like the band, were on a roll. They were on the way up, like, you know. But he was big into drinking drugs at the time, like, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
So he was. I think it was probably a good decision by the band to,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
at the time. I suppose he had to, like.
Would you listen to the first two albums more so than the later ones? It's a nice treat to go back to them, I think.
It's good to go back to him.
It
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
But I think they were different. I think, to be honest, like those first two albums came out, like they were firmly rooted into a whole new wave of British heavy metal.
That's right.
And they have a slightly different sound
Yeah.
when Bruce joined, like, you know what I mean?
That's right.
Yeah.
There was a bit bigger punk influence. And
Definitely, yeah.
you know,
That was his influence there.
it
Like,
was,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
big time,
You
like,
could
so
you could
they're,
tell.
they're almost two different bands.
They are.
Yeah.
They're both. I love both.
Yeah, yeah.
eras of the band, like, you know
Of
what I mean?
course,
You know?
especially when Bruce came from Samson and you
Yeah,
know
exactly.
joined them there, like, you know.
Yeah. It was a great addition. You can't
It
just
was,
not denying
it
that,
was,
like, you know what I mean?
As you said earlier, Pat, they put on great show.
Oh, yeah.
They never leave it on.
No,
Like,
absolutely not.
you know?
No way.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just want to give two shout outs to Metal Radio Ireland for tagging me, and Carl from Two Tales of Woe. Listen to his podcast, King Woe's Court podcast. It's basically doing a lot of what I'm doing. He's interviewing some great bands, so be sure to check that out. And also check me out on Spotify and iTunes. You can contact me through themetalcell@gmail.com, on Facebook and Instagram. So again, lads, absolute pleasure, flew, and I hope you all enjoy it. Over and out.
Nice one. Thanks, Richie.
Great. Thanks, Richard.
Cheers, great night.
Thanks.